Hey guys, Thunder here. Today I want to talk about advanced build design. I've talked a little bit about build design in the past, and I've covered how to kind of put together the basics. But I've been getting a lot of questions recently about how to design a really good and foundationally solid build in Questland. There's a lot going on in Questland that makes this quite challenging. Which is why I'm calling it an advanced guide. If you are fairly new to Questland, this is probably going to be a bit overwhelming. I do have a bit of a basics guide already made, and in addition to that, there's always simple rules you can follow when you first get started. For legendary is better than all the other types of gear, and the highest potential is usually a really good equip. But moving past that, when you get up to the higher tiers, you're really trying to get a foundationally solid build in place. And this is when you start needing very specific items, and you start needing to bring everything together into one very clean, neat puzzle piece. And this guide's meant to show you how to do that. Before I get started, I want to give a special shout out to all my Patreons. Without their help and support, I really could not have gotten this far. And it means a lot to me that you have decided to help support me while I go and continue to kind of create content for Questland and help everyone learn about the game. If you haven't already, please take a minute, go check out the Patreon page. There's tiers with all kinds of great perks for everyone. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for the video. It would help immensely for everyone finding this channel so we can all learn about Questland together and improve. Alright, moving back on to the advanced build design course. The first thing we're going to cover in this is a couple of things I call core concepts. Now I have a lot on this page, but don't worry about it. It's only here so I can constantly look back and reference various pieces for you. So the first thing we're going to start with is right here, just a piece of gear, right? And we're going to pair this with the idea of a gear type. Well, then a gear type here is just based on warrior, mage, and tank. Now, the way we can tell is we look at the links on the gear. So this is a gear piece with a gear bonus of attack and an orb bonus of health. So if I link these things, I get an attack bonus, and if I link these things, I get a health bonus. So if I have a attack and a health link on the gear like this, we're going to call that a warrior type of gear. Very clean, very easy to kind of think about. It's just saying, okay, using the gear bonuses, we're just going to kind of group gear together and call it by a type. There's only these three for the most part. There are special items, though. Keep in mind, special items do exist in Questland. They will not have an orb bonus, but they will have a gear bonus. We call these collection items. We'll talk about them way later, but for now they're really not important. They're kind of an extra concept that we can consider. But moving on from this, right, we have this idea of this is a warrior piece of gear, which is great. Now, we also know that there are some stat groups. And what this means is that whenever you have a warrior piece of gear, there's going to be more warrior pieces of gear, right? Every set that's released has 7 pieces: helm, necklace, boots, gloves, ring, chest, and talisman. Right? And we know that the stats are the same. So if you know the Thunder set or the Knight of the Tempest set, which is specifically the set we're talking about here, the ring, right, is a warrior piece of gear. We also know that these gloves, the Warfists of Thunder, I believe they're called, are also an attack piece of gear because they're in the same stat group. Right? All that means is that when you have gear of a particular stat, right, they're always on the same group of items. right? Now, we don't need to worry too much about this just yet. But what this means is there's 3 stats, or 3 gear types here. We have warrior, mage, and tank. So you're going to have 3 pieces of warrior gear, 2 pieces of mage gear, 2 pieces of tank gear. Or 3 tank, 2 warrior, 2 mage. Or 3 mage, 2 warrior, 2 tank. Right? All it's saying is that when you release gear, they have these groups, and those groups always have a particular type associated to them. That's all it really means. But we can use that information to kind of say, okay, let's have a set type. So we can call a set a warrior set, or a tank set, or even a mage set. Right? These set types just mean that, hey, if there's more than one piece of gear if there's more than 2 pieces of gear of the same stat, so if your helm, necklace, and boots are warrior in this case, then this is a warrior set. Right? This is kind of a pretty simplistic idea here, in the sense that it's just saying, all right, if there's 3 of a particular type, we're just going to call it a warrior set, or a set of whatever type that is. So, if we actually go back and look at the recent sets, right, you can see that, okay, we'll take one most people might know. Let's do Abyss. Why not? It's the Dread Captain set with Abyss, and it's an attack set. Now, this attack set, right, or warrior set, if you would like to call it that, this here is going to say that the helmet, necklace, and boots all actually go ahead and are the warrior type of gear. So this is how we know that the Dread Captain is going to be a warrior set. This is a pretty important concept because there's actually a release order. Gamester releases them defense, attack, magic. They have a bit of a potential increase, and then they do it again. Defense, attack, magic. Then they do it again. Defense, attack, and the next one would be magic, but we're currently on myth at the time of recording. This means there's a predictable pattern to how gear is released. Now you can see I put here a little bit on this, is that you can tell based on the type of set, right, what items are going to be what type. So if I have a tank set, and this is a set with 3 defense pieces here, right, I know that group 1 is all my defense gear, right, all my tank gear. If I have a tank set, I know that all the warrior gear is going to be group 2 for the rings and gloves. And I know that all the mage gear is going to be group 3, so it's the chest and talisman. Right, and that just rotates as you release new gear. Now these are all of what I would consider like the core concepts and the basic understanding, right, that we need to care about before we really start talking what is a build. There's really only 3 types of, like, I'll call them categories of builds overall. You can have a specialized build, which is a build that links all gear of the same type for your equipment. So either all warrior, all mage, all tank. You could have a balanced build, which is all gear from a single set. So let's say you love the Knight of the Tempest set like I do, you could equip all of that gear. And then those are kind of the 2 basic builds. You can have anything that's mixed. You don't have to follow these rules. You could say, wear all warrior pieces and then put 1 tank piece in. Right? That's a design decision for a build. But we're going to keep it a little bit simpler today and just say, okay, you're either going to work with a specialized build or a balanced build. Now, with the current state of the game, right now, health is really, really important. So the only type of gear, if we look, that supports health nicely is warrior gear. So we're going to focus on a warrior specialized build. The reason being is this is the most popular, and it will help hopefully more people understand what they're looking to put together. Alright, now let's actually talk about the idea of putting together a build. Now there's a couple of different patterns here that we're going to pull out. I'm calling them the linking rule patterns. The first one is that all gear of the same type can be linked to each other and linked to the gear of the same type from the previous set. Let's break that down a little bit. So the first is all gear of the same type. So let's say we take the Abyss set as our starting point here. Now it says all gear of the same type. We're making a warrior build, so let's say we're going to warrior. So all gear of the same type. So Abyss is a warrior, right? A warrior is group 1 for all the warrior gear. So we know that the helmet, necklace, and boots of Abyss are all attack or warrior gear. So using this, we know that saying all of this can link to the previous set's gear of the same type. So under Abyss, we know, right, that Thunder, right, is under here. Thunder is a tank or defense set. So we know that the warrior gear is group 2, which is the gloves and ring. So we know that if we go and get the Abyss gear, it has a helmet, necklace, and boots that are going to link, right, to each other. So the helmet will have one link to itself, right, and then a link to either necklace or boots. Same with them. And we also know that there is another link on the gear that's going to link to the thunder gloves or thunder ring. And then we can build a little tower where we stack those. Let's show that with let's use the image over here. This is perfect. Let's say we're taking Thunder and we're going to use the same stacking concept here from this rule. Right, so we're going to use Thunder, this Knight of the Tempest set. And we know that this is a defense set. On the defense set, we like warrior gear, so it's group 2, and we have the rings and gloves. Here's the ring. All gear of the same type can be linked to each other in the set. So this means that the ring and glove should link to each other. Here's the Thunder piece of gear. Look, we have it linked to the gloves. And the gloves backlink to the ring. That's the first part of that. The second part of that is that they are going to link to the gear of the previous set, same type gear of the previous set. So below Thunder, right, we have Dragon, the Cinderlord, and we know it's magic. So if we go over to Mage and we say, what's the tank gear? That's group 3. We know that the chest and talisman are warrior or attack items on Dragon. So we would expect our Thunder, ring, or gloves to link back to either the chest or talisman from Dragon. You come over here and take a look. Here's the ring, linking back to the Dragon talisman. All right, so that's just saying, right, that we have all the gear of the same stats will link to each other. So if I have rings and gloves from the same set, they should link to each other. Chest and talisman from the same set, they should link to each other. And helmet, necklace, and boots, they will have some combination of links to each other. All right, it's not quite as clean when there is 3. However, that being said, that each one of these will link to one of the other 2. Okay. Now those are kind of core there. Now if we come down to this last rule, all gear of the same set can be linked by equipping the entire set. What this means is pretty simple. If we take a look at this ring, you only need 2 links, and there's always going to be 2 pieces of gear from the same set. So here's a Thunder ring, Thunder gloves, Thunder boots. If I take any other Thunder item here, their first 2 links are always going to be to the same Thunder set. The first link is always going to be one of the items from your stat group. And the second link, we're not going to worry about how you predict it right now. We'll keep it simple today. But this second link here is going to be thunder, which is important, which means you can equip all of your thunder gear and it will just link, and you don't need to worry about that. So that's how those two rules come together. All right. Now don't worry too much. We're going to go through this visually in just a moment, but I do want to cover the basics here. All right. I call this the tower and fill design. It's just what I call it. You can name it whatever you like, but the strategy here is all about relying on the first linking rule to stack gear. So if I came over here, I can use the hex attack gear to link to itself to get its first link. Then equip the abyss attack gear, which will get the second link on the hex gear and the first link on the abyss gear. Then I can equip the thunder attack gear, which will get the second link on the abyss attack gear and the first link on the thunder gear, and so on and so forth. So I can stack sets of the same gear going back in time. Now, you're only going to have so many attack slots, right? You're going to have your 7 equips, and then you're going to have 5 collection attack slots, and that's all you have to work with. So you're going to run out of attack slots. So you need some way after you've built this tower to have a base to it, right? You stack them all up, you have a nice tower. Then you actually need a base on the tower, right? The way you can do that is using the second rule to equip all of the same set. So if I have hex attack, abyss attack, thunder attack, dragon attack, shadow attack, and I've run out here of all the attack spots I need, well then I can just equip the entire shadow set. And now I have this tower where everything is linked. Alright, now that's a lot to kind of cover and process in your head. If this got a little overwhelming, covering all these concepts all at once, don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and do it visually now, so you have an actual sample of what this looks like. And you can always re-watch this a couple times if you're really struggling to kind of grasp the concepts. There's a lot of little pieces coming together here. Alright, now this is a fantastic build spreadsheet. I will put the link in the description below, but I really want to give a huge shout out to Bree Hekato. He took my gear item data that I was pulling out of Questland and made this incredible sheet, and he's amazing. Please give him a shout out in the public Discord. If you would like, you can support him as well right here. Amazing guy, puts a lot of hard work into his tools to make sure that we have awesome quality tools for things like this. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to start out with a build, and this build is going to focus on hex through shadow. I'm picking these sets because it is a very nice and pretty and clean build. And it's also not on the latest and greatest of everything, so it's a little bit easier to have all the pieces. In addition, it's a nice warrior attack design we're going to do, which should help make it pretty relevant for everyone. So to start off, we're going to be working with hex gear. And if we go back to our core concepts, we know that hex gear is a magic set. Right? We know that magic sets have warrior gear in group 3, so we have the hex, chest, and talisman. So we come on over here, right? And this spreadsheet is going to let us reference everything by their set and slot, rather than having to know everything's name. So what we can do here is we can say this is a hex, armor, right? And we can go hex, talisman. So this lets us just think about the set and the slot rather than all the names, which makes it a little bit easier to actually reason about how to put a build together. Alright, so now we have our hex attack here. Alright, now our first rule says that they're going to link to themselves, and they're going to link to attack gear from one previous set. And our second rule says if you equip the entire set, they're going to have another hex link, so they can be entirely linked. Now that makes things pretty nice and simple here. So what we're going to do is start layering and building up this tower. So we have our hex way up at the top. The next layer in our tower we're going to use is the abyss. Right? So first things first, we're going to put in our abyss necklace. Now abyss is a warrior set, so we're going to have 3 pieces this time. So it's going to be helmet, necklace, and boots, because that is the group, and boots. Now we have our 3 abyss attack items, and you'll notice that the tower is taking shape. The hex is now linked to the other hex, but in addition it's looking down to the abyss attack set and being linked. Now if you look, we have our abyss stuff on, and look, the abyss stuff all links to, more abyss stuff. Right? So that's how you're getting this tower. Now what's under abyss? Next thing under abyss is thunder. So we're bringing thunder. Bring in the thunder gloves, and we can bring in the thunder ring. Now once again, if you take a look at the abyss items here, which would be this row, this row, this row, you can see that they all link back to thunder, and they all link to another abyss. So the abyss gear is now fully linked, and the thunder gear, which are these 2, now link to each other. And look, they look back for dragon. So we're going to continue our tower. Now it's important to remember that equips link with collections. So we're going to go right ahead and adjust this. Now let me adjust the sizing here so this fits on the full page. Here we go. Now let's go grab an attack slot and let's throw on our dragon as the next set in our wonderful tower. Oops, gotta spell dragon right. There we go. Now, this is exciting. All of our equips are now fully linked. And you can see really cleanly, right, that we're relying on the links to our like set gear, and we're relying on the links to older gear. Very, very nice. Now, we have dragon down here, and we want to link dragon, so we're going to keep the tower going with shadow. So down here we can move a bit of shadow in. Let's do the necklace. Let's do the boots. Shadow boots. And let's do the shadow helmet, as shadow is another warrior set. There we go. Now this is where I call a tower, right? You can now see that all of our equips are linked. All of our dragon is linked. And then shadow is here. Now we don't have infinite gear that we can equip. So we have started to come all the way down here and we've run out of attack slots. Now in the old days you would just go and start using the health slots until those run out. But now we have some health collection items and we think a bit differently about those. So I'll cover those in a minute. But this is where we can come to our second linking rule. And we can actually start leveraging that shadow gear. If we equip all of it, will full link us. So let's throw on a ton of shadow gear. Let's go for the shadow defense gear. Right. We have a talisman and we have the armor. Right, and let's throw on the shadow magic gear. We have gloves and ring. And where's the other magic? There it is. Ring. Alright, now we have all 7 pieces of shadow gear equipped. And you'll see it's full linked. At this point, right, you can see that all of our equipment is linked. All the gear we have equipped in our attack is linked. And all the gear we have down here is like everything we have is linked. We have this tower of warrior gear supported by a base of shadow. Right, so this is that tower part of the design. When I talk about the tower and fill, right, this is the tower. It is a tower of warrior gear. And the base is all built out here on shadow. And it full links absolutely everything. Right, this is a pretty important concept, and it can build the core out of any specialized build. I can now switch off of, say, attack, and we could do magic and fill this out the same way. Or we could do tank and fill it out the same way. Right? This is the way you can design. Now, we are going to talk health items next. There are, or at least there used to be no, let's do it this way. There is no health equipment, right? There is no equipment that you'll put on that is just for health. Why? Because they're a collection item. We talked about the idea before that collection items do not have orb bonuses, right? So there are a couple of collection items in the game that are literally items meant to go in your collections because you don't have to worry about orbs. Right now, in-game, there are only 4 of them. So rather than getting all fancy, we're just going to use all 4. There are 2 Thunder health collection items, and there are 2 Dragon health collection items. So we're just going to equip both of those, or all 4 of those now. Thunder Health Talisman, this is the collection item. Right? And we also have the Thunder Health Necklace, which is the other collection item. Now the links on here are really not all that predictable. So you have to be careful and take a look at them. So the necklace here, this health collection item, looks and works on the Thunder Gloves and Ring, which we have right up here in our build, which is great. In addition, the Thunder Health Talisman here works on the Thunder Health Necklace, so that's this piece, but it also wants the Dragon Health Talisman and Dragon Health Necklace. And these 2 are actually the Dragon Health collection items. So let's go ahead and add them in. Let's grab one of those, Thunder Health Talisman, and you'll see now that we linked this Thunder Health Talisman up here. And we'll add the second Dragon Health one, which is the necklace, right? Which now links the third link up here. The first Dragon Health item links to Dragon Attack Gear, which we are wearing right here, right? And the second one actually links back to the old Shadow Attack items, which we're wearing right here. This stacks up really, really nice and clean, so you can wear all 4 health collection items. Now, while we're talking collection items, there are more collection items released than just health. There's also defense, magic, and attack health collection items. Now, in the game, we need to fill up health slots, right? In order to fill up these health slots, there's only 4 health collection items. We have to use an attack item. So, if we're using an attack item to fill a health slot, then we need to have this open attack item filled with a attack collection item. Now we can actually do this, is we're going to move one of our shadow attack pieces to the health slot. So if you look, here's our rough stats on these pieces, and the shadow helmet is the weakest on attack. So we're going to go ahead and move that over to the health slot. Shadow helmet. The spreadsheet warns me that, hey, you have 2 of these, so let's clear this out. Right, and we kept all of our links. We didn't break any links. Right, but we opened up the attack slot down here. Now, if you look at all the attack collection items for all the sets we're using, there's an attack collection item for Hex, and there's one for Abyss. Now both actually work really well here, but the Hex one is newer and a little stronger, and they both link, so we'll use the Hex one. Right? And these links are once again not particularly predictable. You just need to work with it. And you can see it uses our Hex attack gear and one of the Abyss attack gear, so this links in really nice and easy. Right, so at this point, we've moved over a high health item. Remember, it's high health because all warrior gear has high health. If you see stats for the links, they're also the highest base stats on the item. That's something that's actually a little good tip. So warrior gear has higher health than major tank gear because there's a health link, the higher stats on the gear. All right. Now we've finished up over here all of our attack slots and all of our health slots, which is fantastic. Let's move on to defense. Now, this is where I call the fill part of build design. It takes a little bit more creativity on this part. It takes a little bit more looking at links and other things. And practice is really what's going to make you good at this part. So we're going to start with defense here. The reason we're going to start with defense, you'll see in a moment, But it's because we have shadow gear underneath all of it, and we have dragon attack. And if you look at the dragon defense gear, it links to dragon attack gear. So watch, we'll put in one of the dragon defense gears, like the ring. You'll see that it links to the other dragon defense gear, which is the gloves, and the shadow defense talisman, because it links back a set. And since we full equipped shadow, that links nicely. So here we can also put in the dragon gloves, right? And you'll see if we highlight these two, right? They link to each other, and they link back to shadow defense gear. We have all shadow defense gear equipped, right? So this is how that works. Additionally, we can do the same with thunder defense. Thunder defense, however, we can actually be pretty lucky with. We have a helm, the thunder helm. And if we go ahead and put that on, you'll see the links here are, we could link to a thunder defense item of the same type, which we are not in this case, because we only have one defense slot here. But it uses the thunder attack ring, which our build uses, and it links back to the dragon defense, which we just put in. So this actually fills in that defense puzzle that we were dealing with. All right. Now the magic part on this particular build was a little bit tricky to fill in. And if you take a look through the sets for a little bit while, you'll find that Abyss is actually the set that helped us the most, because the Abyss magic items link to the Abyss attack items. So if we equip both of the magic items from Abyss, you'll see that they link to each other with the ring and the gloves. And you'll notice that they also, and we'll highlight these nice and easy, and you'll see they link to each other, and they link to the Abyss attack gear. So that makes them nice and easily linked. As an added bonus, Abyss came out with a magic collection item. Because they have a magic collection item, we can use that. And it happens to link on the Abyss magic, ring, and gloves. This now completes this build. We have linked every single piece of gear except for one health slot. There's only 4 health collection items and 5 slots, so we could not have done any better than this. This is effectively perfect for this build. Now, this is kind of how you can look at, okay, this is a build that has a really solid layout, links really well. This is a nice, clean build, right? Now, there's more to consider to just a build than this. So while I call this the advanced course, it's still not going to cover everything. An example here is artifact orbs. If you are moving up into the higher tiers of play and you have lots of artifact orbs, then you're going to be worried, is there an artifact orb for this Abyss helmet? What about for the Abyss boots, right? You want to have those orb links we talked about, orb links. Ideally, you would like to have artifact orbs for all your gear, right? 100% artifact orbs. So if you don't have an artifact orb of one of those two, you may not like that very much. Now, there's currently not a build out that you can have 100% artifact orbs on, which is fine. That's how the game works, right? But how many artifact orbs can you have is a really good question to ask and think about. Now, moving forward, you have to think about your artifact orb links, right? You have to think, if I have a broken link, how do I want to reforge to deal with that? Because your artifact orb boosts do apply to reforge, right? You also want to keep all these in line, right? Sometimes this build's not going to be the best because, right, you might need newer gear, right? So a consideration in build design is how easy is your build to upgrade, right? So if you're, for some reason, sitting on all A5s on your build, right, you can't recover any of those resources right now. There's no way to break down an artifact 5 in-game today. Hopefully there is in the future, but those resources are stuck there. So you need to build new legendary items from scratch to replace your build. So how many items do you need to replace? Yeah, need to replace 5, 6, alright. If you need to replace 11, 12, okay, that's a little pricey. If you need to just flat out replace the whole thing, okay, that's pretty expensive. Those are some additional considerations here for build design. But this is enough to kind of get you started thinking about and experimenting with builds that actually come out solid and strong and you can be proud and confident in. Keep in mind that there was a lot in this video. We covered a ton of concepts, combined them all together, and then turned it into this really well put together build. Right. To do this takes practice. I made it seem easy here, but it took many hours to figure out exactly how to design this build here. That fill step is not always trivial. Okay? So, while I made it look easy here, I have been doing this non-stop for quite a long time now, before we were even on these nice pretty sets. Another consideration is these linking rules don't hold true 100% of the time. Older gear past sacred, this entire process doesn't work. You need something totally different. Right? And you'll notice that these linking rules aren't 100% clean. Right? All the only attack gear, or all the shadow attack gear, doesn't necessarily link to all the sacred attack gear. So there are edge cases, and there's lots of little things to keep your eye out for. So don't take these as foundational, must always follow. These are looking at how things work, pulling out a couple of principles and concepts to work with, building up some design rules, and then applying them. Alright. With that, I'm going to be wrapping up this entire design course on builds. They're a very complicated and very fun thing in Questland that can be very rewarding to really understand and work with. I hope you have some wonderful, wonderful experiments with builds and come up with some fantastic things. Feel free to share those over on the public Discord, or if you're a Patreon, feel free to hop into our community chat and share builds and talk about them. With that, I'm going to give a shout out for my Epic tier and higher Patreons who work really hard with me occasionally to help flesh out some of these concepts and ideas. And they give me a lot of feedback on what to make and what to publish next. So, if you are interested in Patreon once again, please go check it out. It helps me out and everyone else in the community out as well. So take a look at the tiers, see if you like something, and make sure you like and subscribe on the video so people can find this as well. Thunder out.